St. George, Utah is booming. Every day people are moving here from all over the world in search of cheaper cost of living, better weather, and a safer place to live. Over the last 5 years, it meant rising property values in St. George and all over Washington County. But things are changing, which is why I wanted to create this video. The St. George real estate market has flipped, and I'm going to tell you all about it. If you're new around here, my name is Nick, and my wife Michonne and I make videos about living in St. George, Utah, and we're also real estate agents here. With that, let's jump right into this video. For the first time in years, the buyers now hold the power in the market. So if you're considering buying or selling a home in St. George in 2025, you can no longer use the old playbook. The first and most significant change that we see is that we are no longer in a seller's market like we have been right here in St. George for the last 5 years, with shortage of inventory and surplus of well-qualified buyers. Combination of high mortgage rates and high prices has slowed the sales drastically, and we're now seeing nearly a 63% surplus of housing inventory in St. George housing market. As a result, the homes are sitting on the market much longer, and we're now seeing price reduction on nearly 27% of all active listings. At the time of filming this video, there are over 1,700 active listings on our MLS, which brings us close to pre-pandemic levels of inventory. And with a slower demand, now we're in a market that has a lean towards being a buyer's market. This means that the sellers now have to compete with other sellers over ready, qualified, and able buyers. The buyers, on the other hand, had plenty of time to do their due diligence, and they know exactly what they want. The buyers in this market are after nicer homes with nicer finishes and nicer locations with nicer schools. And of course, they're only buying the homes that are priced competitively. The buyers are no longer competing with other buyers in multiple offer situations like they have just recently. They're no longer paying over asking, they're no longer paying over appraisal. The sellers are now competing for the buyer's attention, and price, condition, and location of the property are incredibly important. A lot of properties right now are selling at list or slightly below list price in St. George, Utah and surrounding areas. Based on the MLS data, we're seeing that an average deal happens somewhere at around 4% below asking, and the sellers are often also having to provide some sort of concessions in order to make the deal happen for the buyers. New home builders are offering a lot of incentives right now, because they're not only competing with other new home builders, but they're also competing with a lot of resales that hit the market. They're offering things like temporary and permanent rate buy downs, upgrade credits, and closing cost credits. A lot of the local home builders are very motivated right now to move their standing inventory, especially if they built these spec homes 6 to 9 months ago, and the carrying costs are really starting to add up for them. We're seeing both price drops as well as increased incentives on a lot of new construction standing inventory right now. And along with the standard price reductions on new construction inventory, we're starting to see increase in the amounts of credits that the builders are willing to go towards buyers' closing costs, design center selections, upgrades, and really anywhere else you could possibly apply it to. We just recently closed a deal with Perry Homes on one of their new construction specs, and the builder was able to help our clients quite a bit. On top of our offer being slightly below asking, the builder also agreed to pour an extended RV garage slab on the side of the property and make sure that our buyer received the home exactly the way they wanted. We also just negotiated a fantastic deal for one of our clients in one of the newer subdivisions in St. George, DeVario. DeVario has breathtaking 360-degree views, as well as the views of the golf course and the mountains in the distance. We were able to negotiate a fantastic deal on one of this builder's existing spec homes. And shortly after we closed, they notified us that several of their existing standing inventory spec homes are being bought down through the builder's preferred lender to a permanent rate buy down at just 4.99%, which is a huge deal for a lot of buyers from a payment perspective. Precision Homes of Southern Utah is one of the builders that we work with a lot. We currently have several of their spec homes listed in both St. George and Hurricane, and on top of reducing our prices in order to be the most competitive, the builder and their preferred lender is also offering a $10,000 credit towards closing costs or the buyer's rate buy down. And these are just a few new construction incentives and recent deals that come to mind. There are quite a few deals to be had in this market when it comes down to builders' standing inventory. Keep in mind, like anywhere else here in southern Utah, the pricing and quality can vary quite a bit from one builder to the next. There is a lot more opportunity for buyers in this market. A year ago, we had a similar number of buyers pursuing fewer quantity of listings. So the sellers and the builders were not as motivated as they are right now. But the builders and the sellers are now aware that they're competing against a larger inventory of home listings, so they have to make these accommodations. And a lot of our buyers are able to negotiate great deals for themselves. We're now in what is really starting to feel like a buyer's market. 3,351 residential building permits were pulled in 2024 in Washington County. It is now the end of May of 2025, and so far only 540 residential permits were pulled in the county versus 840 last year. If you're thinking about purchasing a piece of land and building a custom house, logistically, it is now a much better time to do so than it was even a year ago. As we know, the builders aren't pulling as many permits as they were even a year ago, which means the subcontractors aren't as busy as they used to be. And on top of that, we're not suffering with the supply and logistical crisis that we were dealing with in 2020. So most of the materials aren't back ordered and are readily available. Anywhere in and around St. George still comes at a premium. So if you're thinking about purchasing a quarter-acre lot, be prepared to spend about $250,000 for a pad-ready lot. If you're looking for something that's larger or perhaps has an incredible view, the price point for those lots typically starts at around $500,000 and up. The cost of materials have adjusted some based on the demand of the market, but if you're considering building a custom home in St. George, Utah in 2025, you're still going to pay a premium for that compared to some of the deals that we've been able to find on existing standing inventory. With that being said, we understand that in some cases, you just have to have it exactly the way you imagined it. There's a lot of uncertainty around the rising home building costs in St. George due to the imposed tariffs on China and Canada, and over 30% of all U.S. lumber currently comes from Canada. There are a lot of southern Utah home builders that either have phantom inventory or wait until the very last minute and until the homes are pretty much finished before they bring them to market and, more importantly, price them. A lot of uncertainty around what the tariffs will do to pricing, and there is a chance that it will have a significant impact on the pricing of new construction right here in St. George. Of course, there's no saying in what the future holds and how all of this will play out, but we will just have to monitor this until we see what the future brings. Migration to southern Utah is still a big factor. People are flocking here from California, Washington, Oregon, and pretty much all over the US because of politics, taxes, cost of living, overall quality of life, and crime rate. These clients are telling us they're ready to move to St. George, where they can still buy a lot more house for the money, pay a whole lot less to live here, play all the golf they want, and worry a whole lot less about their safety. Here's the bottom line for the buyers shopping in St. George in 2025. The buyers have the strongest position that they have had in nearly a decade. There's a lot of opportunity to negotiate, anything from the price to repairs to inclusions, buyers' closing costs, and anything else that makes the deal work for the buyer. And if the seller isn't willing to play ball, the buyer likely has an opportunity to move on to another property and another seller that is willing to negotiate on these items that make the deal work for the buyer. Days on market have hit an average of 63 days before the home sold. which is up by 8% from this time in 2024. Nearly 28% of all listings in St. George real estate market are now receiving price cuts. It is very important to note that real estate is local, and just because things aren't moving super fast here anymore, it doesn't mean that some markets aren't still receiving multiple offers. It is very often that we hear from somebody in California that they're ready to purchase a home in St. George, but they still have to sell a home someplace in California. Their home goes on the market by Friday. By Monday, they have multiple offers to choose from, and then the following week, they have cash in hand to spend on their home purchase right here in St. George, Utah. And this is why it is so important to work with a local experienced agent that has a pulse on the market and knows exactly what's going on. We realize that a lot of our viewers and a lot of our future clients have outdated views and beliefs about the market. And right now we're telling them that there is nearly a 40% increase in inventory, and there are a lot of great deals to be made in the current St. George real estate market. So what if you have to sell your St. George home in this current real estate market? Price, condition, and location are the three factors that ultimately affect the outcome of a home sale in any market. Right now, there are two big factors that affect all home sales in southern Utah. We find that homes with incredible views are the properties that get picked up first, and above all is the houses that are priced just right so that they become the obvious choice for the buyer. Over the past several years, there has been a lot of inflation in home pricing, so you really do have to do your homework in order to make sure your home is priced correctly. And you have to also keep in mind that today's buyers have had some time to wait for the rates to drop and to really ponder this market. So these folks are really, really savvy, and they know, as well as the appraisers, whether or not your home is hitting the market just right or if it's overpriced. And of course, having a lot more inventory on the market gives the buyers, and hopefully if they have a good buyer's agent, the ability to compare and make sure that your listing is really priced correctly. So pricing your home just right in 2025 St. George real estate market is extremely crucial in order for you to be successful as a seller. Condition of the property still plays a huge role in how the home performs once it's listed on the market. Homes that have no messy, big, expensive projects, homes that don't have any clutter, homes that are not overwhelmed with personal items, homes that look, show, and smell the best really don't spend a ton of time on the market, even in the slower environment that we're experiencing right here in St. George right now. Which brings me to my next point. If you're looking to sell your home in 2025, it has to be brought to market in such a way that it becomes an obvious choice. While location cannot be changed, and it could be as much of an attraction as a detriment depending on whether your home has beautiful mountain views or if it backs up to the busy road, you cannot alter that, so you have to include that into the price. The same thing with condition of the property, although that could be fixed. If you have any pending projects, finish them. If you don't feel like it or you don't have the ability, you can make up for condition and location and cost, and you should be working with a local agent that will be able to guide you through that process in order to make sure that your home is the obvious choice, even when compared to a plethora of other inventory for a potential future buyer, more so now than ever. If you plan on selling your home in 2025, prepare to work with the buyers. We've experienced that selling your home can be a very deeply personal process, and some of our buyers have even experienced so many emotions and stress that overwhelmed them, and it translated into these negative emotions towards the buyers of their home. While we completely understand that it may be emotionally taxing to prepare to sell the largest investment, the largest allocation of money in your life, your home, if you prepare yourself to work with the buyers regarding the price, costs, closing contributions, or any of the repairs in your home, it actually makes it a much smoother experience when you already anticipate those things that are appropriate for this time and this current real estate market. As real estate agents, we feel that it is our duty to work with the sellers and make sure that we buffer these emotions, we prepare them for what's coming next, we communicate that appropriately to the buyer's agent, and make sure that everybody does their part, everybody stays in the game, and of course we get to a successful close and have a happy seller and a happy buyer, and everybody gets the outcome that they initially desired. So if you're a buyer and you've been thinking about moving to St. George, Utah, right now may be a great time. Our inventory is up, there are all kinds of options, and there's definitely some room to do some negotiating. We're excited for our buyers to have these opportunities. A lot of buyers are coming from out of town right now. Michonne and I are working with a lot of buyers from California, Washington, Colorado, and all other states. It's an exciting time to be shopping in St. George, Utah, because around this time last year, our buyers did not have as many options and the sellers were not as negotiable as they are right now. So if you're ready to jump into the St. George 2025 real estate market, give us a call. We would love to support you through the process, get you a great deal in a home, and be your Southern Utah resource. Feel free to call us, text us, or email us. And yes, it will be either Michonne or myself answering these calls. No, we're not gonna be too busy for you because we look forward to every call, every text message, and every email. We would love to be of service to you.